Hey guys, Alex here, ajnashville.com, here again with our co-host, Mr. Greg Pease.
I'm excited to be here and bring you guys another valuable topic and really elaborate on it a little bit. And then, of course, we're going to give you guys some call to actions and hopefully add a little bit of value to what you guys got going on, add a little value to your week, your day, and even your life.
And if you're listening to this podcast and you hear an adjustment in the audio, just know that Greg and I were experiencing a hum before this thing started, and I started twisting knobs randomly and everything else, and that was probably a bad idea. so
we're
here
going to take you on an audio roller coaster ride.
Right, exactly. So prepare your speakers and prepare your ears because we're going to adjust this on the fly. But no, actually, it's go ahead.
Yeah, man, I was going to, awesome. I'll dive in and talk about topic today. So what we're going to talk about today is, we've all done it, right? So we make a list of things that need to be done, and we this needs to be done, that needs to be, we spell it out, and then we go through the day and we check a few of them off. Some of us get lost in some distractions. I've never done that. Definitely not on Facebook.
Right.
And then and so we go through this list, check a few off, have a few distractions, get to the end of the day, and maybe we did half the list, but there's still half the list yet left. Tomorrow we carry that list over, we add a few things, and we go into this cycle, and it creates anxiety for us. It can create depression for us. It can, we feel inadequate in a sense of we're not getting what needs to be done. But what we want to offer you today, the perspective that we want to put on you, the mind shift that we want to offer is that a lot of those things on that list, I didn't say that, I'm not going to tell you they don't need to be done, but they don't belong on that list. You see, some of these things might need to be scheduled. Okay, so maybe it needs to be done next week, maybe it needs to be done next month, or maybe it needs to be done next year.
Right.
All of it doesn't belong on today's list, and when we put it all on today's list, inevitably we're setting ourselves up to end the day with temporary defeat and the fact that we didn't complete the list. So what's really going to change your life, and what we're going to put on you today is a little bit of perspective on prioritizing.
Yeah. Well, and that's huge. The one big thing that one of my mentors says is if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority.
That's right.
So literally, you have to almost grade what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis and say, all right, this is number one. This is a non-negotiable. Like, first thing is, I got to get up. Okay, cool. That is a number one priority. Wake up, Now, granted, that's going to, I'm being a little sarcastic there. That's going to happen, hopefully, regardless of what it is you plan to do for the day. You're going to wake up. But it may be that you want to wake up at 7 because you have coffee with somebody at 7:45, and that person is a person you've tried to work with for a very long time, and there's nothing that's going to interfere with that. Or in my case, my thing is I get up and my daughter goes to the bus stop at 8:19, and there's nothing that I'm going to schedule that's going to interfere with that because it is a top priority for me. It's a necessity at that case. Now, that's an extreme when we look at the prioritization of things, but if a client called me up and said, hey, I need to talk to you in reference to this home that I have to have today, I'm going to say, hey, you're going to have to wait because at 8:19 I take my daughter to the bus stop, and that's a non-negotiable activity that I do every single day, except for Saturdays and Sundays. I still take her there. She just sits there till Monday.
No, but and then not only so respecting and a big thing that I took away from what you just said, and that I want to highlight for everyone listening, is once you have determined what your priorities are, so you already determined that your daughter's a priority, and for all good reasons, and then respecting that time slot or respecting that priority. So you don't go ahead and don't label it as a priority and then go back on it halfway through the day.
Yeah.
Or halfway through the week. If the gym was a priority every morning, then we got to go every morning or whatever that case may be. But here's what's important: a lot of prioritizing. Here's where I really want to put a mindset shift on you. Is a lot of prioritizing is deciding what you're not gonna do.
Yeah, that's huge.
Because you said it. You nailed it. I've heard it say before, if everything's important, nothing's important. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. If you have a list of 100 things and you're like, these are my priorities, guess what? You ain't got no priorities, literally.
Right.
By determining what your priorities are, one of the things that might be able to help you is look at what is not getting done. What's not getting done at all? What's not getting done today? Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great opportunity to kind of dive into my back deck story.
Yeah, your analogy. It's actually a really good one.
So yeah, and I'll share. So I need some repairs on my back deck, and realistically, and I'm dead serious when I say this. Probably about 2 years ago was when it was an opportunity to stop passing off deferred maintenance, and right now we need full-on repairs. and I need to do it. I will fix the back deck. But what I was sharing with Alex, if I was to put that on my list every day, and every day it doesn't get it done, now I have this anxiety, and the deck wasn't getting done, and I was supposed to get it done, and I feel lesser. Whereas right now, the deck is not a priority.
Right.
It is not a safety concern right now. It is not aesthetically pleasing. It does not face the front of the road. And if I invite you over and you don't like my deck, you don't have to come another time.
Yeah, you don't have to sit on this deck.
That's right.
Is it a big deck?
It's it's a nice walkout deck.
Right.
But the big thing is, so I have to fix that deck, and I will get the deck fixed, whether I hire someone, whether I do the work myself. It's not much.
Yeah.
But the example I'm giving you is me and my family are very clear that the way that deck is, and the fact that it's not getting fixed today or tomorrow.
Right.
And now I don't feel anxiety around. I don't walk out the back of my house. I'm like, oh man, the deck's still sitting here. This needs to be done. That needs to be done.
Yeah.
No, deck does not have to be done right now.
Well, and another piece that we kind of broke off on when we were talking about that earlier is if something big happens. So let's say, all right, I got the money, I've got the tools, I've got the time, I've got everything it takes to go ahead and do this deck. And all of a sudden you have a leak in your roof and you see it. You just look up and you see water just drip, drip, drip. And you inspect that and you say, well, heck, the deck was $5,000. The leak is $2,500. What am I going to do? Am I going to do the deck because I said this was a priority, or am I going to fix the leak, which has now become a 911 priority?
Shift priorities.
Shift priorities 100%, because you have to take care of what's going to best suit the objective that you have, which is providing your family a safe environment, a dry, warm environment with a roof over their head. And so the deck becomes secondary to that priority.
And let me inject that when that happens, right? And I said when that happens, okay?
Right.
Some of you won't be dealing with a leak in a deck, and I hope not, right? That's a horrible analogy, right? But insert X and Y, and you're going to deal with it. When that happens and you shift your priorities, I want you to really focus on and pay attention to you shifted your priorities. My point being, now the deck, don't be down and out the deck didn't get done. The deck is no longer a priority. And you might say, Greg, the deck is absolutely a priority. We were just about to get it done. It was a priority until the roof
Something
leaked.
else came up, yeah.
But if it's still a priority, remember, if everything's a priority, nothing is a priority.
Right.
Things are a priority when they are prioritized to be a priority, and when they are not, you need to allow them to be in that slot. Now, scheduling, again, one big thing that's going to help you, like, do we just keep deferring things and just decide we're not doing it? So can we just decide that we're not doing things, Greg? Does that work? I'm not going to the gym no more.
I'm not doing anything.
Scheduling. So when that happened, let's say it took you 2 months to come up with the $5,000.
Yeah.
And you need $2,500 to fix the roof. If all that statement is true, you need an additional 30 days to come up with the other $2,500.
Right.
So now the deck goes on the calendar as a calendar invite for 30 days from now, and now I don't have to worry about it as a priority. When the day pops up, I know it's then is a priority.
Right. And give yourself some space. So we're talking about putting things on your calendar. And the biggest thing is, and this is the most painful thing that I see, let's say a lunch, for example. I schedule lunch with Greg, and I'm going to go and I say, okay, the lunch is in Franklin, which is a 20-minute drive. There's usually a 10-minute wait, and this is something you and I have talked about before.
Yep.
There's usually a 10-minute wait. You may hit traffic. You may not. You may forget your phone and have to run back in. So the thing is, and what I'm getting at here is, if your lunch is scheduled for an hour, don't set an hour and 20 minutes to get there, sit down, have lunch, get back. Set yourself a 2-hour window.
Absolutely.
Set yourself time for, hey, you know what, I left a little bit early, but I'm sitting in traffic now, but it's okay because I have an extra 10 minutes that I allocated in time for travel. And, I forgot my phone, but it's okay. I don't have to run in and grab it. I can walk in and grab it because I allocated an extra, 5 minutes for leaving time, buckling up the seatbelt, picking the radio station, whatever it is, and then at lunch, I don't have to hurry up and run off because I allocated an actual hour worth of sitting there versus an hour total for this event to take place. So what you're doing when you prioritize is you're also making that person that has prioritized for you to be there, making them feel important and making them not feel like you're rushed. And it's like, hey, I got to jam out, dude. I appreciate your time. We'll see you later. I've got priorities that are bigger than you, and I've got to get to them right now.
Right.
So allocate a little bit of extra time for some error, for one, which is the traffic, I forgot my phone inside, the car won't start, something like that. But also allow yourself that additional time to make that person that's there at that time a priority. If you're looking at your watch, looking at your phone, doing all this other stuff, it is sending signals to that person that, hey, there's something else that is more pressing than you right now, and I got to make sure I'm there.
And it goes into I want to. There's 2 points that I thought about there. One thing I want to highlight is, again, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So when you're having lunch with that person, if the phone's a priority, the clock, your watch is a priority, being late, so that now if everything was a priority, now they are not a priority.
100%.
And by properly scheduling, like you said, not just scheduling as in using your calendar, but scheduling as in prioritizing and figure out what's important, what's not, and allowing that slack, you can allow that person to be that priority at the time, and you can prioritize them.
100%. And the other action that I believe, this is my true belief that goes into this. As individuals, we typically we'll sit down at a table, and I'm using this analogy because this is something from a business standpoint that we do quite often, which is eat lunch with other individuals, eat dinner with other individuals, drink coffee, whatever it is. If you come in and sit down, I know there's a thought, hey, I'll take my phone and I'll turn it face down and set it on the table. Okay, cool. You've done that. You don't have notifications that may not pop up. You may get a text and you hear it vibrate, but you don't see it. And so the person's going to feel like, yeah, you value my time. What if you left the phone in the car?
Yeah.
What if you kept it in your briefcase or your pocket or your purse or whatever that looks like and said, hey, you know what? You're really a priority because I don't care if this thing vibrates. I'm not going to hear it. It's sitting over here. You're the person that I'm focusing my time and energy on. I take note of it every time.
And if you leave it in your briefcase, it's way back in the 1990s, so there's no way you're getting it.
Right, exactly. You got to jump in your AMC DeLorean, 88 miles an hour down Main Street. Don't get caught speeding, but the dock would get you back to 89 where your cell phone.
Where your cell phone's at in your briefcase.
Your brick.
Well, let me add this in. Let's say you've properly scheduled, so you've allotted, we're just hypothetically, you allowed 2 hours for that 1 hour lunch. You didn't run into traffic. The car started just fine. You got there. There was no wait. They're walking you to the best table in the house. You get done lunch, and now you have an extra 30 minutes. God forbid you fire off 1, 2, 3, or 5 emails, and when you get home that night, you can now prioritize your family.
Yeah, for sure. Or an action that I recommend that people do that a lot of people don't is you take that time to take some notes about that meeting. Boom. And you sit there and you can put it in their contact. Literally, while you're sitting there and you're putting in the contact in the phone, you can put notes in. Hey, has a daughter that's 9 that plays soccer. Has a family that's moving to town. Went to Murfreesboro to go to college or whatever that looks like. You start taking those notes. One other thing you can do is you can send them a thank you note or a thank you text or something like that. Hey, you know what? I really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for coming out. I look forward to working with you in the future or repairing your deck or, whatever it is, whatever that meeting's for, you're able to express that gratitude and that person's going to walk away thinking, you know what? That was better than I thought it was.
Well, when you talk, the notes are huge. I don't do it enough. When you said it, I was like, man, I need to be better at that. The notes are huge. Look, we only have so much space to memorize things in our mind. Right? Let's use that wisely. I meet too many people.
Yeah.
I meet too many people. I'm not going to memorize everyone's family.
Right.
But if I take notes on it, if I put it in their contact, now when I go to call them next time, I can, okay, that's right. They do have a son that's doing softball. Let me ask about how their son's doing in softball, whatever the case may be.
Right.
That's extremely important, and that lets someone know, even if you say, literally, even if you said, hey, I wrote down notes that you had a son doing softball. What was your son's name again? Even if you said, that lets them know that meeting was important enough for you to even take notes.
Yeah. 100%. Well, and the other thing is you start building that relationship. It's not that I don't care enough to internalize what it is that you have said. It's like you said, it's hard to compartmentalize.
Prioritize what you memorize.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's huge. I'm horrible with names. Like people walk up to me, they're like, hey, bro, what's up? How you doing? And I'm just like, man, I know who you are.
Yeah.
But I'll be like, hey, man, how's it going? Because I'm not like, oh, hey, what's up, Greg? How are you?
Yeah.
And I'm horrible with names because I have to, in theory, remember so many names in my business. If I closed 27 deals last month, I have to remember potentially, 50, 60 names, depending on how many people were involved in that transaction.
Yep.
And that can be pretty tasking. So I can remember the names of the people that I associate with on a regular basis, But
even more
don't
than
forget
50 or
face it.
60, you figure, you said 27, I'll do the number 30.
Yeah.
If we were couples, we went up to 60, and if they all have one agent each, that goes up to 90 people.
Yeah, that's
and
what
that
I'm
doesn't
saying.
include all the rest. That's just like what I would consider what I think is probably the important people to you in the transaction.
Right. Well, and everybody in our business, you don't get the, hey, Mr. Smith's property, blah, blah, blah. It's, hey, 123 Main Street. What's the status on that? And I'm like, oh, who's 123 Main Street?
Yeah.
We talk in different languages. It means the same thing, but those are things that my memory has to take in, and I have to decide which of those pieces am I going to prioritize.
Well, it's important, and what we like literally. I mean, I love it. Just organically went this direction, but I love it while we're here. Prioritize them what you're going to memorize. Don't try to memorize everything for everyone, and then you're like, oh crap, what was his name? And you're stressed out. Anxiety sets in.
Right.
We feel like a failure.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, look, I don't memorize their name. I use this system for names.
Yeah.
And that's what a truth is now. Yeah. And now you have room for the things that have to be prioritized, memorized, like 123 Main Street or whatever it is, hypothetical. But whatever the piece is that needs to be memorized.
Exactly. And again, like you said, this all just falls into those pieces of prioritizing different information, different things in life. If you start that journey of making things important, whether it's, by memory, by scheduling, fixing your deck, systems, whatever it is, if you focus on making certain things important, you will see an enhancement in your life. I mean, there's no question about it. You'll see an enhancement in your career, in your personal life. That's the one thing is when I get up in the morning, and some people do this at night. Some people at night will write down, okay, I got to accomplish A, B, and C, tomorrow. And that's what I've got to do. But for me, I lay awake a lot of times at night, and I wake up early. This morning I got up at like 4:15, and I fell back asleep at about 6:45, and then got up at 7. But as I'm sitting there in that idle time, I'm like, oh, hey, this email changed this, which changed me having to do that, and now I've got to accomplish this. So I get up in the morning and program in my head what it is I have to accomplish. Now you can use apps. There's apps like Monday, for example, where you can actually go in and prioritize and, high priority, critical priority, low priority, whatever it is.
Will they pay us for saying how awesome they are on this?
I hope so. We should call them. And be like, hey,
we plugged you in on the podcast.
Right, we're gonna need $22,000 for that.
It is. Alex introduced me to it just real quick. We won't go into detail. We don't make any benefit off of saying them.
Right.
Alex introduced me to it, and Monday.com is an outstanding prioritization tool.
Yeah,
software program.
It's amazing because again, when you have a million things going on, sometimes you have to stop and you have to put in this task and then just let it sit there, prioritize it in whatever degree you need it to, or even if you have an assistant or a production partner or something like that, that can jump in there and be like, oh, hey, he's supposed to pull credit on this client.
Hey, this thing's
I'm going to go ahead and do it for him.
This thing's 911 or whatever the case may be, or vice versa, and that's huge too. When you synergistic energy for everyone listening, you might not. There's some of you that have assistants, executive assistants, whatever the case may be, and some of you are like, yeah, right, I wish.
Yeah.
Look, you have friends, you have accountability partners, you have mastermind groups, you have spouses, and if you don't have any of those, go find one or two of those.
Right.
And in that manner, those people can help you with your accountability, essentially as accountability partners on your priorities, like what you were talking about with production partners and things of that nature. What if you're not working on something that's 911 and your production partner or your assistant sees something that is 911?
Right. Now
they can notify you, like, hey, I understand you're working on that. You might not have seen we got this thing over here.
Yeah.
Oh crap, put this down. We got to go to that.
Right. Well, and that's a huge piece too. I know you said if you don't have somebody, go find somebody. The other thing is go ahead and discipline yourself. But tell people. That's the big thing. I'll post stuff on Facebook and social media platforms that I am looking to accomplish, not to brag, but because I want someone to look back and say, well, dude, you said you were going to do this. Why are you still doing that?
Yeah.
There's accountability that sets in, and people will hold you accountable if they think, and mind you, not everybody, but if some people think that, hey, by poking this at them, I'm bringing that person down, they'll bring it up real quick. If you're like, I'm going to be the manager of my store by 2022. You better believe that New Year's Eve, someone's going to be like, are you the manager yet?
Are you the manager?
There's somebody out there that will test you on that. So tell people, literally get out there and say, hey, my goal is to help 200 families this year. Somebody's keeping score. I promise you. And it doesn't always have to be you, and you don't always have to measure up to their metrics because priorities do change. Look, if you said you're going to help 200 families this year and you get a family member that's deathly ill and you have to tend to them for 60 days, I don't care how many people you help. Just regroup, reprioritize what it is you're looking to do and set a new goal.
100%.
Hey, I knocked out 2 months, out of my
Shifting those
timeline.
priorities.
Right, exactly. Your leaky roof.
The leaky roof. That's perfect. That's a perfect.
You fall
analogy.
back into it. So, and that's what's important. Like, don't ever let your goals cloud your priorities. Whatever it is in life, if it's not health, you can readjust for. You can readjust for health, but let's face it. If you come down with cancer, like, everything around that needs to be the most important thing. Diabetes, obesity, whatever it is. If you come down with something, that is the priority. No questions asked.
Right.
But that doesn't mean let go of your goals. That just means you need to readjust fire.
That's your leaky roof.
And that's your leaky roof. And you need to say, hey, we got to stop. We got to fix this. We're going to regroup and we're going to figure out how to set our metrics to potentially accomplish. And this is what we talked about in the last podcast. If you know your metrics, so if I know today, in order to hit my goal, I need to make 5 phone calls today, but I lose 10 days worth of phone calls, I got to make up for it somewhere, right?
You got 55 phone calls today.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you may spread it out longer. You may say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do 55 because I can't handle
Start
that
doing
load.
12 a day for the next 17
15,
days,
20, whatever it takes. You're re-engaging those metrics. You're prioritizing what it is that you have to do now, right this minute, but you're not letting your goals slip away because of an occurrence. You're still focused on it. You're just readjusting the whole thing.
And it kind of goes with prioritizing, but with what you said. So we're actually working with Jenna Fox right now.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I around. So she owns a credit. She's a credit specialist, credit repair, things of that nature. And so my wife and I were both in the 700, so we're doing good in credit. But it is our goal to get to an 850 in credit. Right. And I told my wife the other day when I first told her, she kind of looked at me with like that, like almost like.
Why?
Well, why and how would we get there? How would we even get there? And I told her, I said, it's irrelevant. I have no clue. This lady's going to tell us we're just going to do those things and we're going to arrive at an 850. The clock's going to tick anyway, and we're just going to arrive with an 850.
Right.
Whatever it is that needs to be done, that's what we'll do. But it made me think of that when you talked about shifting the priorities and viewing your metrics.
Yeah.
So if you lost 2 months, you were going to help 200 people. You lost 2 months because of a family member that was ill. So now, you just replug in the math, replug in the formula.
Yep.
So now by the end of the year, I'm not helping 200 people. By the end of the year, I'm helping 150. I'm still helping 200 people, but that's 14 months out.
Right.
See, you're still going to arrive there.
Right.
You're still, nothing changed.
Yeah.
I mean, the timeline's changed. You're with me.
Right.
But when I say nothing, you're still going to arrive there. And as long as you have priorities, as long as you have those metrics, you shift fire when you get to leaky roof and you move on.
Yeah. Well, the thing is so what if the timeline changes? If it's a goal that can adjust to a timeline, which in my opinion, you should set a hard deadline for a goal with the mindset that, hey, you know what? If something happens that takes priority against that goal, I have the ability to adjust if need be.
Let me share something on timelines, a story that one time. So I used to do competitive bodybuilding. It's been a little while since I've done that. And this story
that's so hard to believe based on your physique.
This story dates back over. I've been in California or Tennessee for about 10 years. So this story is 12, 15 years old. It was earlier on in bodybuilding. So I was working with a buddy of mine that we would train together and compete together and so on. And so one day he came over to my house. It's a true story, man. And he comes over to my house, and so he breaks down his workout regimen. And like we were at the phase where like we were going to find the perfect workout.
Right. So, 6 minute abs.
Yeah. Well, and not just that, but like if I do a quarter cant on my wrist and I use this dumbbell, whatever.
Yeah.
We thought we were figuring out secrets. But so he shares with me, he's like, if I do back and biceps this day, then I'll have enough energy and I won't be too sore. I'll be able to do chest and this day, and this is hypothetical.
Right.
But he goes through and he gets to the 7th day, and if he had a rest day here, and so it was all spelled out in detail, and he gets to the end and he's like, but when would I train? This hypothetical, work with me all. But there was a body part or two that was left that didn't get done yet.
Right.
And so he's like, how would I train my traps or whatever it was?
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily traps.
Leg day.
Fuck it, we don't need leg day.
Right. Some people don't even have them.
That's what long pants are for.
Right.
No, but he gets done and he was so baffled, and it could have been me in that moment, but I seen it and he didn't. And what I seen and what I want to share with you guys today around time was that he was stuck in a 7-day box.
Yeah.
Dude, his workout rotation could be 8 days.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Like a week is a week, but things don't have to fit inside of a week. Things don't have to fit inside of a year. Like every 8 days, his training rotation would start over every 8 days.
Right.
It didn't matter that it was one more day than a week. Who uses a paper calendar? Get out of here.
Right.
Nobody.
Well, and there's a lot of truth to that. So as individuals, we box ourselves into, well, there's 5 business days. I need to work these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And let's face it, most people that are listening to this, Friday is kind of like, can't wait to get done here. Can't wait to check out. Maybe I won't do this. But whatever it is like and that is an excellent point. We box ourselves or paint ourselves into the Sunday to Saturday schedule every single week, 4 weeks out of the month. February screws everybody up because it's a short month, but at the end of the day, like all of that is irrelevant. The only person that cares about those months is the people you're making your rent or mortgage payment to. They're like, hey, it's the first.
It's another month.
Pay up, sucker. But beyond that, like your metrics can, like you said, stretch to 8 days, 10 days, 12 days, 15 days. It doesn't have to be a deadlocked number that conforms to a typical schedule or calendar simply because it's your metric. Like this is how you can do it. And you reset whenever you're ready to reset. Your priority says, hey, you know what? This is going to take 10 days to accomplish. I'm going to reset on day 11.
And most companies, and for all good reason, okay, I'm not for all good reason, most companies, their metrics go month to month or week to week, but month to month is that recheck.
Yeah.
If you're working for yourself, your checking point might be every 6 weeks.
Right.
It might be every 5.5 weeks.
Yeah.
It doesn't, whatever spelled out, whatever made sense, time is always moving. It's just a way for us to track where we are in that moment.
Well, that's so benchmark our calendar year. Benchmark's calendar year for production is August 1st to July 31st.
Yep.
And you're like, that's such an awkward, window. However, we have a production contest that takes place in March and goes to the end of July. And so they're axing the end of the year off and saying, hey, this last section is where you guys these are where the provers prove. And the last section, once that's over, we're knocking it off and it's a new year. So literally you're ending this huge competition and starting a new year immediately.
And it is well calculated too. That's perfect.
It's all set in stone. It is like that, and it's not the January to December. It's not the traditional year, but that's why so many companies do that. They have their goals, and the metrics are there for a reason. You're breaking right in the middle of summertime or towards the end of summertime when you break up your calendar year like that. Well, that's intentional because the summer months are typically the months where most people are buying and selling homes. And so it makes sense instead of grouping that into the middle of the year to begin your year with that change or end your year with that change. So
it's huge, it's smart.
Yeah, no, that's big. So we're getting low on time here. Do you have any closing thoughts? Of course you got closing thoughts.
Dude, I do. And before we even, I don't know if we got a couple minutes left, but did you want to maybe share some of our exciting news that we have, or do we want to save that?
No. We definitely... We're going to leak it out.
Okay.
So Greg and I have, obviously we vibe really, really well, not only on this podcast, but as friends. And we thought to ourselves, Greg was recently on a podcast that's a mutual friend of ours, and the flow was very good, much like this one is. But we want to dive into a new venture. We're not canceling this venture. The AJ Nashville podcast will continue to live, continue to grow, continue to exist. It's not taking priority. It's coinciding with the priority of this other venture that we have. So we're coming up with some things. We're going to have a podcast that's a little more free-flowing from a not-so-structured mindset. It's going to run a little bit longer. It's not going to be a Joe Rogan 3-hour podcast because Lord knows I can't talk that long. But it's going to be a longer stretch podcast, and it's going to be... It may not be for the same audience, know?
Yeah. I mean, the goal is to maybe get a little bit deeper, like you said, a little bit more free-flowing. So when we do these podcasts, which I'm excited to keep going on with, when we do these podcasts, we have a specific goal that we don't script this podcast at all, but we have a specific goal that we're going to talk around, bring light to, and then have a final thought or a call to action that you can then go and take away.
Right.
And so we're still finalizing details on the new podcast, but in general, it's not going to be you're going to take what you take from it, and if 10 people listen to it, each one's going to take something different than the other.
Right. Well, and it's going to be more intense. It's going to be a podcast that it may bring tears to your eyes. It may bring anger to your soul. It may bring humor to your body.
It's going to invoke emotion for sure.
For sure. And the biggest thing is we're doing this because, again, it's not like this one where it's meant for the general audience. This is meant for a lot deeper, stories and everything else. So we haven't come up with a name for it yet. We're working on that. But here's what I encourage you as listeners to do. And right here in this post that you're listening to this in, this Facebook post, wherever you found this, Greg and I talked about this early on. We want to do like a super swag pack.
Yeah.
One that you get.
It's going to deliver. You're going to love it.
Yeah, you've got all this cool gear now, and you're set up. But we're going to make you earn it. And what we're going to do is we want individuals to submit names of what they think like a self-help deep podcast, a good name for it. One that we're talking about stories of physical abuse, emotional abuse, overcoming objections, overcoming things in life that are meant to hold you down, breaking the chains of life, basically. If you come up with a great name and a name that we decide, even if we use the majority of a part of, we want to reward you with a big swag pack, and that's going to be shirts, hats, flask, water bottles, like you name it. You're going to get this thing and be like, holy cow, it's like a Walmart exploded in my living room, but with better quality.
So well, we want to hear some thoughts and some ideas from you guys. Help get the party going. And
some suggestions. Maybe a person that would fit within this, a person that like in Greg's story.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like in Greg's story, where they left the military and they spent a good portion, from that point forward struggling, and now they've overcome it and they're at a point of success. Or maybe it's somebody that, maybe they're from a different country and came over here to find a different life, and they talk about how their country was X and now they're here and here's what they've accomplished and achieved. We're not looking for a substantial hardship where, it physical abuse and beat down every single day. That's not the prerequisite for the show, but an individual who has overcome something. So, if you know someone, send them.
And so, and with that, I'm sorry, you asked for final thought, Dovin. I got a little excited there. I wanted you guys to hear about that.
You're like a puppy that found his tail. You're like,
I'm really excited about it. That's funny. I tell anyone that's been listening to this for more than one episode, I'm excited to be here today.
Right.
I am. I'm always excited, man. But so for final thoughts, for takeaway for you guys, what I want to leave you with, the thing that we talked about a lot, the thing that I want to resurface for you is decide the things that are not getting done today.
Right.
And the caveat I want to give you is remember to schedule them for later. That's what I'm going to put on you for today.
I mean, that's powerful. That's powerful. My final thought, and I find this to be a very relative thing, don't let others decide what's a priority for you. A lot of times we're told, hey, you have to do this by this. And I'm not saying ignore your boss. I'm not saying, hey, your boss asked you for this paperwork to be done by Friday for the report. Like, don't go and blow that person off unless your priority is to find a new job. But the fact of the matter is, don't let people dictate. We all get in those positions, and it's like, so and so wants me to go out on Friday, but I really don't feel like going. But I'm going to go just because they asked me to. Don't do that. Stop doing that. Stop being a slave to somebody else's priority and start making your own. So
it's huge.
That's all I have. I can't speak anymore, but thanks again for tuning in. We hope to talk to you soon.